Are you going to really give it 100%? Are
Yeah.
you going to follow the directions that you're asked? Are you
Yeah.
going to, do the exercises that you're supposed to be doing? Are you going
Yeah.
to be using the ice heat modalities? I mean, are you
Yeah.
going to follow directions? If you're not,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's kind of setting you up for failure.
Pain isn't just about one joint, one injury, or one bad day. It's your body asking for attention, and the right guidance can change everything. Welcome to the Optimal Health Guide. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm here with Josh Vance, the Optimal Health Guide himself. Josh, how's this week going for you today?
It's going really well. Thank you.
Nice. That's good. Well, today we're going to be talking about something that may be a little uncomfortable, but I think is really important too. Why is it that some people don't get better or even when they're in treatment? Because reality is like not every recovery goes the way that somebody might expect it to be. So I think it's important for us to discuss this honestly and help people to come up with some clear expectations so they don't end up frustrated, discouraged, or even give up when there's still a way forward. I'd love to dig in and have you unpack some of that for us today. Before we get to the first question, though, I do want to remind listeners that if you're hearing this and you are listening today, you might be thinking of your own situation, something that you're facing that we haven't yet discussed. We would love to hear from you. You can go to podcast.vancept.com. You can submit your question or topic there. We'd love to be able to read that and use that to be able to help shape future episodes so that we can speak directly into what our real listeners are actually dealing with. So with that said, Josh, here's my first question to get us going into this is when someone isn't getting better, what are the most common reasons that you see behind the stalled progress they may be facing?
Okay. So there's probably several reasons. I'll start with reason number one.
Sure.
Sometimes there's more than one thing going on. So they may come in and they may be having, let's say, quote unquote, shoulder pain, but, maybe it's a little farther down the arm and maybe
Yeah.
it's not really quite just shoulder. Maybe they've got some stuff going on in the triceps too. Maybe we're dealing with, and something that may have happened in the course of treatment, maybe they did something during the day and now they're having pain in kind of a related but separate area. And so now they feel like, well, but I'm having still pain here. Well, the reality is it may be something that wasn't going on before and now
Yeah.
it is.
Nice.
So, that needs to be addressed,
Yeah.
certainly. So I think that would be one reason. I think another reason could be what a person is expecting.
Yeah.
There's many different kinds of problems, and there are times when, as much as I hate to admit it, physical therapy can't solve it 100%.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of the severity of it. And in
Hmm.
fact, this almost could be two different reasons. The severity of conditions. Okay. So let's take like a very arthritic shoulder, severe arthritis. Well, we're going to have limitations. Maybe they don't want surgery. Okay, understood. But pain's not going to be 100% better and like pain free. So
Yeah.
there's a little expectations there. There's a little bit of severity of condition there. Now,
Yeah.
if it was mild to moderate, the outcome could be better than with severe. All right. So those two kind of go hand in hand, I think, a little
Yeah.
bit.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just going to repeat these back to you and then just kind of have a follow-up question there. So you've got the possibility of multiple issues that it sounds like too, you didn't quite know fully, but that those two things are multiple issues, compound one another and create some complexity there. And then I like the way that you kind of separated both expectations, like whether it's like an expectation to get back into things quickly, or I would imagine even a negative expectation can have ramifications as well. So I think that's one of the questions I'm going to follow up with in just a little bit. Severity, recognizing that there are limitations that that person's body or condition puts a cap on things.
Yeah.
So love just your general response there, but I think especially on the expectations, both positively and negatively, how you see that impacting things.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough question. Expectations impact things in the sense that, if we come in and I'm expecting to be like 100% healed in, say, 3 weeks, your expectations are probably not going to be very realistic, depending on what
Yeah.
it is. Say you had rotator cuff surgery.
Yeah.
No way. Maybe if you just came in with like a little bit of a burst, a tendonitis sort of thing, but even still, that's probably not a very good realistic expectation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if you classify that as a positive or negative, but that would certainly be affect that sense of
Yeah.
why is it taking so long, feeling like it would be stalled.
Yeah.
I think if you flip it around on the other side and a
Hmm.
person has expectations where, they're just looking for some relief.
Yeah.
They've had this 6 months to a year, it's kinda getting in the way of life now. I want just something that I can do to make it a little bit better so I can do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that would probably be a little bit more of a positive expectation in the sense
Yeah.
that they're gonna probably feel like they're getting closer to achieving, what they're really looking for, with the things that we're gonna do.
Have you seen where somebody's negative mindset has created limitations? This is just never going to get better. It's not like, how do you see kind of that mindset of affecting things, or is that really not a factor in what you're
No,
dealing with?
I think it can. Anytime you come in with a "this isn't gonna help" attitude, I think that's can affect your outcome because, number 1, are you going to really give it 100%? Are
Yeah.
you going to follow the directions that you're asked? Are you
Yeah.
going to, do the exercises that you're supposed to be doing? Are you going to be using the ice, heat, modalities, whatever it is? I mean, are you going to follow directions? If you're not, okay, well, that's kind of setting you up for failure, which
Yeah.
is
You're
setting us
right.
up both for failure and a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen that plenty of times, and so hopefully I can recognize that ahead of time. I had
Yeah.
somebody last week, I kinda Tabitha gave me a little heads up. They had a knee surgery, and they're like, "Well, I don't really know what therapy is gonna do for me." I evaluate them, and they've got several things that they need. So I think after kind of figuring that out, finding that out, and then kind of addressing that head on, okay,
Yeah.
these are your issues. You've got this, this, and this that we need to deal with. Are you game? And then I think that helps.
That's good. I can see it. It's a partnership. Yeah. You've got
Yeah.
a role to play, but there needs to be that buy-in on the other
Yeah,
person. That's great.
for sure.
How about this? How important is consistency? What role does at home work play in recovery? You've mentioned before you've got somebody for an hour to an hour and a half, but yet they've got all of these other hundreds of hours at home. Speak to that about consistency and at home work.
Yeah, consistency is super important. And it doesn't matter if you're learning a language, you got to be consistent learning the language. If you're trying to improve your physiological strength, you got to be consistent at it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the gains that you're looking for. And I think sometimes the hard thing is people need to understand, and they don't understand, how long it really does take to improve strength. Strength is not something that comes overnight. When you start exercising within a relative short period of time, 2, 3 weeks, it becomes easier, but that's
Hmm.
not because of actual change in strength. Your muscles are learning, you're kind of developing motor learning skills, really. That physiological increase in muscle cells takes 6 weeks. So, consistency is certainly important. Consistency with doing exercises, stretching, using ice, heat, whatever it is that you're supposed to
Yeah.
be doing. It definitely needs to be regular, and in some cases 2, 3 times a day. If we're stretching, muscles are like rubber bands. We got to stretch it consistently daily, several times a day for a minute to start to get that muscle to elongate physiologically so that we
Hmm.
have better flexibility and better motion. All that has to happen. So, what a person does at home is certainly going to have a big role in it
Yeah.
on whether or not they're going to kind of be achieving what they're shooting for, or whether they stall or maybe get a little bit better. But definitely that
Yeah.
consistency is certainly very important.
That's good. Dive deeper into this because we've hit this topic before where you had talked about there may be short term, like you may feel like you're growing, muscle or strength, let's say, but that strength in the muscle takes longer. Unpack that more because you got into like elongated and you started using some technical language there, but take us on the deep end on that. What's happening? And then maybe even what should I be expecting as I start to partner with you?
Okay, so when you start doing exercises, your body and your muscles are going to be learning. Anything you do, it can be learning to ride a bike, it can be learning to, write for the first time when you're a kid. Your muscles and your body and your joints, we have different receptors in our joints and they tell us where our body is in space. All that has to give input into your brain. So we have this thing called motor learning. That's how we learn to do a motor task. There's fine motor, there's gross motor, but in any case, it's motor learning tasks that our body has to do. Well, exercising is the same way. When you begin to do a particular movement,
Yeah.
those muscles, joints, everything's working together. And so you're learning how to do a movement. When you first learn, it may feel a little awkward. After doing it a little bit more, it gets easier. Then you start adding a little bit of resistance and weight. And,
Hmm.
at first it's pretty challenging, but then fairly quickly it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Part of that's muscle learning and motor learning.
Hmm.
Physiologically, those muscle cells, they take 6 weeks to actually what we call hypertrophy or get larger. That's how they get stronger. The cells have to break
Mm.
down, muscle tissue breaks down, and it has to regrow essentially. But that's a physiological process that takes 6 weeks of training those muscles with resistance in order to actually get stronger.
Wow. Okay. Is that a 6 week cycle or is that just to get initial strength and that elongation that you're talking about?
Okay, elongation is stretching, okay?
Okay.
That is different than
Hyper.
strengthening. Strengthening is, there's 2 kinds. There's like, well, I guess what you could call power versus endurance, but it's both strength. Power is like how much work I might be able to do 1 or 2 times. Endurance is how much work can I do all day long. Okay.
Yes.
So muscles need a little bit of both. And we have different
Yeah.
muscle cells. We have fast and slow twitch fibers. This is kind of way over in the weeds here, which
I
help
love
us
it.
do different things.
Yeah.
Fast twitch versus slow twitch. Slow twitch are more for endurance. Fast twitch are more for power. We have different amounts of both in different muscles based on the function of the muscle. But the stretching is elongation. That's physiologically making that muscle longer versus strengthening is making it more powerful so it can do more work.
Great. So you clarified the language where I misspoke there, trying to digest that. But then going back to my question is if it takes 6 weeks to actually then grow in this strength, both in endurance and in power potentially, is that a 6 week cycle or is that just where you're first going to see the results?
It's where you begin to. So it's a
Okay.
6
That's
weeks
fair.
process. Now we're beginning to get stronger from a physiological
Yeah.
perspective. We keep exercising, we keep getting stronger.
Yeah. That's great. Awesome. Well, thanks for taking us deep there. We've already hit on this question to some degree by unpacking some of the hurdles that people face to overcoming the growth that they want to see happen. But how is it that mindset and ownership impact someone's ability to recover?
Okay, so if I'm seeing someone and they come in and they expect me to fix them, they're probably going to be disappointed because they're not going to get the full impact of what they could have. I mean, I'll gladly help
Yeah.
them, but again, once, twice, maybe even 3 times a week, that's probably not enough to affect what we need to
Yeah.
ideally for them to recover for what they're hopefully wanting to get.
Yeah.
They need to be doing things at home for sure.
Yeah.
The idea of I'm going to get them to do the work and fix me isn't probably the best idea to have because you're not going to get what you're looking for from it. If you
Yeah.
come with the idea of I'm looking for help, more of a partnership sort of thing, like you mentioned in the past, okay,
Hmm.
now we're talking because you've got to accept the responsibility because it's ultimately your body, it's not mine. I'm gonna take
Hmm.
care of myself, but you got to take care of yourself, and that's going to take a little bit of an investment. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, if you're going to take care of your car, you're going to invest in getting an oil change. You're going to put some gas in it. You're going to change your brakes. Your body's the same way. If you don't have an investment in it, you're not going to be doing what you need to, and you're not going to get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah. Let's say that I've been working with you and I'm not partnering well, and you can tell my expectation is I'm just waiting for you to fix me. What kind of conversations are you starting to have with me as you notice that?
I think one conversation would be, what are you looking to get out of this? What are you really wanting? Are you wanting, and I think it also depends on what the problem is. Is this a problem with having pain? Is this a problem where, functionally they can't do something? Is this maybe maybe they had a stroke and they're cognitive levels affected, or maybe they're a little older and they have a little dementia. So it's going to depend a little bit on kind of medical history and everything that's going around. But I'm going to start asking questions. What do you want to get from it? Do you want help? If you don't want help, let's just call it good right now. Are you willing to do what you need to get better? I mean, what are these things that you're wanting to do? That's probably an earlier question. Are you wanting to, still stay in pain? If the answer to these is no, okay, now we can probably work with you a little bit, but what's preventing you from doing the things that we want to do? What's preventing you from, participating, getting the job done and working together? Those are all things that kind of have to be addressed.
Let's say that I have been partnering well with you. What kind of conversations are we having at that point? How are you coaching me when you're recognizing a high level of partnership and ownership on my side of the tracks?
Okay. I think in that kind of situation, it's like, hey, good job. You're doing your homework. You're doing everything, and we should be seeing progress. We should be seeing, hey, pain's decreasing, functions improving. We're able to do more resistance. We're moving towards these goals. Our range of motion's better.
Yeah.
Our flexibility is better. The muscles are looser.
Hmm.
Whatever it is that we're trying to handle, they can walk farther. They can do more stairs, uh, pains 50% less while they're doing stairs. They're able to get in and out of the car easier, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's keep going. Let's keep making that progress. And then, how are your exercises? Are they too easy? Are you bored? If they're too easy, okay, we'll tighten the screws.
Great.
We'll make you work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Let's
So
push
good.
you a little bit. Let's look at this
Yeah.
other goal. What else can we do to get you, so that you are like a raving patient?
Yeah. Well, I think this is actually where that question comes from. And one of the things I do for the clinic is I watch and manage the Google reviews that come in, and I'll reply to each one of them. And the number of positive reviews, 5 stars, is absolutely the norm. But the stories that people are telling there are so good. They hit on all of these types of things that you're talking about: the high level of care, the compassion, the team that you've built, that it just every touch point that they have. That's what I think I was wanting to just see drawn out, because I see that amplified all the time in those positive reviews. So raving fans, great stuff.
That's awesome.
What about, why is physical therapy really a partnership and not something that's just done to you? Do you feel like there's anything else you want to address that you haven't hit upon already?
I think maybe I would just say, the communication is important. And it's one thing that we actually work with really hard, not just within patients, but actually staff. We've done a lot of communication drills to improve the ability for staff to understand each other as well as patients. So, and there's two reasons for that. One, when you have poor communications, things happen, misunderstandings happen. That's probably the
Yeah.
biggest thing. And then the second reason is to be able to handle difficult conversations. And sometimes difficult conversations come up where, somebody may be unhappy for whatever reason,
Hmm.
and so, that communication is important, and honest feedback is important. If, something's not going well for whatever reason, we want to
So good.
address that and
Yeah.
handle that in whatever fashion has gone upside down on that.
Yeah.
So, the communication and feedback, I think, as a partnership is super important to us. And so we really want to make sure that communication is two ways. With each session, we're getting good communication, what's going well, maybe what's
Yeah.
not going well, if there's a new issue that's come up, whatever it may be.
Great. Here's the last question I've got for you. If someone does feel stuck or discouraged, what's the best next step to get back on track?
Okay, I think number one, communication, just like I think I was talking about. If someone feels stuck or not on track, I want to know about that. So then I can kind of look and ask some questions. Okay, so what makes you feel like that? Are you still having pain? Is there something that's been missed? Maybe we need to reassess a few things. Maybe we need to look at some other possible options as to other things that might be doing causing some symptoms. On the other hand, kind of asking some questions. Well, what are you doing during the day? Is there something that you're doing that's exacerbating symptoms?
Yeah.
Is there something that you're not doing at home that you should be, honest communication about exercises, or maybe they stopped icing and I'm wanting them to ice and they tend to only ice if it really gets flared up and they're supposed to be icing on a consistent basis 2 to 3 times a day. Those are some things that definitely need to kind of be looked at. Um, Sometimes changing a person's expectations. Okay, well, we really do have significant arthritis, we'll say.
Yeah.
Maybe they've had a stroke and they've had a lot of functional limitations, and maybe they aren't doing as well as they would like. But because of that severity, it's a little bit of more of a difficult conversation telling somebody after a stroke, well, you may never return to what you wanted to be able to do. That's a
Yeah.
tough one.
Yeah.
And it's the reality though at times.
Yeah.
So, sometimes adjustments to the expectations have to happen. Um,
That's good. Well, Josh, thanks for helping us to just see that recovery isn't something that just happens to you, but it's something that you participate in, and helping us to see that partnership that you develop and the role that you play there. Well, if you're listening to this conversation and you feel stuck in your recovery or like things just aren't progressing the way that you would hope, the best next step is to get some clarity on what might be missing. At Advanced Physical Therapy, we work with you not just to understand what's going on in your body, but how to build a plan that actually moves you forward. You can start the process with a free consultation at vancept.com, because the goal isn't just to start treatment, but to help you to move toward optimal health. Thanks for listening in to this conversation today.